There was an article that was written by Eric Garten, who works over at Bain. And he wrote this for HBR based on some research that they did. And he found out that overburned employees cost between $125 and $190 billion in healthcare costs in the United States alone. And if you think about it, it's very easy for us to become burned out in this new world that we live in. We're constantly using social media, we're constantly using email, we have technology at our fingertips, and so it's very easy for us to constantly get burned out and exhausted. And multitasking doesn't really help us that much either. Studies show that while you're working on a task, if you switch to working on another task, it actually takes you 25% longer to complete both of those tasks. So multitasking isn't really our friend either. In other words, it really does come down to being able to prioritize and figuring out the things that you should be working on and the things that you should be pushing off. Microsoft also did some research on this, and they found out that if you're in the middle of a task, if you get distracted, on average, it takes you 15 minutes to get back on track with the task that you were working on. So again, multitasking, distractions, all of this stuff is all over the place. You have friends that want things from you, you have your boss, you have coworkers, peers, everybody wants things from you all the time. And these requests come in digitally and they come in person. So you can imagine that this is only going to increase over time as we become more connected, as technology permeates every aspect of our lives. And so this ability of learning to say no and taking a little bit more control over our lives and how we do things is going to be very, very important. In fact, with technology today, we always assume that connectivity means availability. In other words, if you are connected to technology, it means you're available. I mean, how many times have you been on vacation and you're still checking your email, you're still checking your phone, you check it at the dinner table? In fact, most people, the first thing that they do when they wake up in the morning is check their email. Last thing they do before they go to bed at night is check their email. So we're constantly being bombarded with all these different types of requests and technologies, and we've conditioned ourselves and we've conditioned the people that we work with that if we're connected and we can get Wi-Fi, it means that we are going to be available. And that is a very, very wrong way to think about work and to think about how we can use technology. Now, I face this in my personal life all the time, and I have had to actually get very good at saying no. I get requests all the time from people who want to pick my brain, from people who want to get a coffee with me. I get requests from friends that want to invite me to things as well. And I used to say yes to everything, right? There was a time when I was starting my business where I would say yes to everything. I would take every meeting, I would take every phone call. And then by the end of the day, when I would get through with doing all these things, it would be 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, and I would realize that the entire day would go by, but I actually didn't really get any work done. And that was kind of my aha moment where I realized, you know what? I got to take more control over what's going on in my life, and I need to learn how to say no. And it was something that I realized I had to practice, and I have been practicing for the past 5 to 10 years. And I'm sure that you are going through many of these similar challenges inside of your organization and perhaps inside of your personal life as well. One of the reasons why it's really hard to say no is because we are conditioned from a very early age to say yes. Say yes to your teacher, say yes to your parents. We've been ingrained with this idea, with this mentality that we should always be saying yes. And now it kind of feels like we're going against our nature a little bit by actually trying to say no. And there are several other reasons why we are not very good at saying no. Another reason could be we're scared to say no, right? We're scared of what that means. We don't want to disappoint our manager or our peers, our coworkers. We don't want people to be upset by our saying no to them. We also want to be perceived as that ambitious go-getter, don't we? Inside of our organizations, you want to say yes, yes, yes to everything with the idea that everyone around you is going to look at you and say, wow, look at Jacob, or look at Erica. She's amazing. He's amazing. They're saying yes to everything. They're taking control of everything. Look how much work they're doing. They're a real go-getter. And we typically think and assume that it means that that person is going to move ahead in their career if they start to say yes to everything. And another reason why we don't say no is, quite honestly, it's just awkward. I experience this, I'm sure you do as well. Sometimes saying no is hard. It just feels weird, right? You gotta look somebody in the eye, you gotta say no, you gotta see the disappointment in their face. It's not something, quite honestly, that we're very comfortable with doing. But there are also a lot of benefits to saying no. Of course, one of the greatest benefits to saying no is just your mental sanity, the peace of mind knowing that you don't have to run around and kill yourself, literally trying to complete everything that is getting thrown your way, that you don't need to say yes to everything. And so when you say no, you kind of empower yourself a little bit. You get to take a little bit more control over the things that you do and why you do them. You also become more productive, right? Because you focus your time and energy on the top priorities, on the things that you can do and that you should be doing instead of just doing everything. Saying no will also reduce stress, right? As I mentioned earlier, you're gonna feel like you can breathe a little bit by pushing off the things that don't really matter or they're not at the top of your priority list. And lastly, I think saying no allows you to build self-esteem and confidence. If you think about it, the more confident you are, the more self-esteem you have, the easier it is for you to say no. And in fact, the vice versa can be true as well. The more you say no, the more self-confidence you're able to build, the more self-esteem you're able to create for yourself because you can just say, you know what, I'm sorry, no. Think about it like this. If you say yes to everything, you end up doing nothing really well. Right? All the things that you say yes to, you tend to do a mediocre job at all of them. Instead, it's far more effective to do a great job at a smaller set of things. And when you say no to something, you're actually saying yes to something else. So if you want to reframe this in your mind, at least for your own mental sanity, don't think of it as I'm saying no, think of it as I am saying yes to other things. And that, I think, will be much easier for you when it comes to actually saying no. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed that. Check out futureofworkpodcast.com for more content. And do me a favor, leave a review on Apple Podcasts or whatever your preferred channel is. Thank you.